Okay, so it should look like this. Let me run it. Okay, so what I want you to do, I want you to delete these two headings right here. So it's number 1. And then after you do that, I want you to change heading 1 to my website. Okay. And then I want you to delete any div tags you have. So any div tags that we put in, delete them. So for example, if you go down to the form, there's a div tag here, just delete it. I'm also pretty sure we have one in the buttons, so delete that div tag here too. So everything is like back to where it was. So number 1, delete the 2 headings, leave 1, and then change it to my website. So it should look like this. Number 2, delete the div tag we had on the form. It was form input. And then lastly, delete the div tag surrounding the buttons. And let me know when you guys are done with that in the chat. Or voice, I keep forgetting.
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm
and then
done.
go to CSS and delete everything that you have there except the comments. Okay. And the last thing, move the section 5 inside. Oh, wait, actually. No, hold on. Actually, no, we'll take care of that in a second. Okay, so we have everything structured, so let's go back to CSS. So I already explained to you guys what selectors can be, so now we know how to target our HTML from CSS, and now we're going to start applying styles. So the first section actually is global styling selectors and the basics. So the first thing you actually want to do is there's a global styling selector called asterisk. So asterisk means everything. So what this is going to do is going to apply any style, any declaration that we put inside the in the curly brackets to everything on the browser. So what we want to do right now, you might not get it at this moment, but we would want to zero out everything because some browsers already have like default or pre-made settings, and we want to zero it out. We want to start from the beginning. So if we run that, it's going to end up being different. Like you can see the difference. Let me show you again. So this is without the padding. So you see that there's like space here, and then within the padding, if you when you zero it out, you make it 0, there's like barely any space. So you want to go ahead and do that. Okay, and while you do that, Janelle, why don't you share your screen so you can go ahead and do the body global selector.
Okay. Is everyone done with what Sarai gave?
Yeah.
The margin and padding? Okay, good. All right, let's move on. So right now, we're going to be learning about global style selectors and bodies. So we're going to be right here under, right here where my mouse is. So first we're going to put the body. In a open bracket. So under that, oops, wait, how did that happen? Under the body, we're going to put a font family. In the font family is a property in HTML, in CSS. So then we're going to put the values of those So Times New Roman. Times again. And serif. Why do they keep doing that? Okay. So now we're going to do another property, and it's the font size. It's 20 px. Okay. I don't know why it keeps doing that. I think because I'm pressing delete. Okay, and then we're going to do a background color. Let's do blue. Yeah, I'll put that in after. I was gonna put that in after. Blue, and then we're gonna put the ending bracket to close it. So when we run it, all I don't know, I can't see my screen, but I can't see my screen. You can see the screen, make it bigger. All of it will change. To blue. And you can do whatever color you want. So did everybody do that and get that correct?
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. All right. Okay, good. All right. Thank you.
I have it. I have it.
They both have it. They both have it.
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. Let's see. Okay, so the next thing you want to do is you want to use the width and you want to use the height properties. So we're going to set the width equal to 100%, which it already is at 100%. Oh, you know why? I forgot to do the container. We're going to do that in a second. So width at 100%, and then the height, let's do 80 pixels. Why is it like that? Oh, forgot the semicolon here. Okay, now when you're going to run it, it's going to be a little bit bigger. Maybe let's put that a little bit smaller. 50 pixels. 70 pixels. There we go, that's good. Okay, so now that's your header. Now, let's actually go back to right above here. Now, when you open your tab in a new, when you open your website in a new tab, it's gonna look like this, right? So what we want to do is we want to make another container. So right now, everything in your browser, every single element is 100% width of the screen, right? It takes up 100% of the screen. What we want it to do is to take up 80% of the screen. So we want it to be centered. So the way we do that is we're going to go back to our index.html and we're going to go here, right up here. Actually, we're going to go after this, after the header, and I'll tell you why in a minute. And we're going to create a new div tag and we're going to give it a class called container. So that whatever's inside this div tag is going to be part of a container. So we're going to go all the way to the end of the before the end body tag, and we're going to close this div tag. Okay, and we're going to call it the closing tag for the container so we don't forget. Okay, so basically everything that's inside the div tag is going to be part of this container. So you can think of it as another screen. Okay, when you go back to style.css, you can select the container. So it is a class, so you can do .container, and what you're going to do is you're going to set the width equal to 80%. Okay, and then don't worry about this now, but you're going to set the margin equal to auto, stands for automatic. So what that does, margin is actually the space surrounding each element. So when let me actually show you. So if you just simply do container width equals 80%, it's not going to change anything, because what you want it to do is you want the space surrounding the container to be equal both on the left side and the right side. So if that happens, that means it's going to be centered. So if we run it again, now you see that everything inside the container is centered. Okay, so let me open this in a new tab once again. So this is when everything is centered. You can see everything is 80% of the actual screen except the header, because we made sure that the header, let me actually do this real quick. Because we made sure that the header was outside of the container. If we put the header inside the container, it's going to apply the style that we said for the container. So let me show you. So here's the header, right? It's outside of the container. If we Okay, here we go. If we go back to index.html and we go and see what our header's here, it's outside of the container. If we go ahead and copy and paste it inside the container, what that's going to do is going to apply the container properties to the actual header. And we don't want that. We don't want it to be like this. We want it to take the full width, the 100% width of the screen. So in order to do that, we're just going to move it outside of the container. So it ends up being 100% of the width, while the container thing outside of it, inside of the container is 80% of the width. So you can see the difference there. So let me show you a before and after. Okay. All right. So this is the before we added a container, and then this is the after we added a container. So everything is centered, 80% of the screen, okay? Do we have any questions on that? Do you want me to go over it again?
Show the CSS.
Yes.
Can you show the CSS? Thank you.
Right here. Okay. So this is all section 1, global styling selectors and the basics. So this would be considered the basics, the header here. And then this all is like global styling. And global because it affects it affects all the, basically everything that's in the browser. It's not specified to one thing, except the header. Okay, so see, you got that? Okay, so
Yeah, I got it. Thank you.
now we're going to go ahead and use this paragraph. I'm going to show you how to apply a border, how to apply margin and padding to this one paragraph. So the first thing you want to do is you want to go back to your index.html and you want to create a div tag. So you're going to go under section 2 and you're going to create this new div tag, and you're going to give it a class of box 1, let's say. Close that in, and then close your div tag after the paragraph, right? Okay. So let me know when you have that.
I have it.
Okay, Skylar, do you have it? Oh, okay. All right. So once you do that, now you can actually target the class. You can target this paragraph very easily by just going to section 2 in your CSS. You're going to do dot box 1, okay, because it's a class, so you have to use a dot. And inside, let's say we want to actually do a border. So the way we do a border is we use the border property. We use a colon, and then we specify the size of the border that we want. So we want a thin border, so let's do 1 pixel. Then we want to specify the color of the border, so we're going to do white. And then we want to specify the style of the border, which we'll explore in a second, but we're just going to put solid for now. Now, when you run that, it's going to put a border over surrounding your paragraph, and you can clearly see it over here. So now that we have a border, I'm actually going to show you what you can do individually. So you can target your border positioning individually. So let's say you only wanted to have like on the side, you wanted like a little accent on the border. So you could actually target only the right side of the border. So you can do border right, and you can do this. Hold on, let me show you something real quick. Okay, before that, let me actually show you how you can just do this individually. So another way you could actually write this is the easy way, the one-liner, but you could also do border and then just set the size, so 1 pixel. Then you can also do border color and set it equal to white. And then you can do border style and set it equal to solid, right? So if you delete this first line right here, and you just run this, it's going to give you the exact same thing. It's not going to change anything. Okay. All right. So actually, let me keep this deleted, but let me show you the different types of styles that you can do. So there's a ridge style, which is super cool. It's kind of like a window. And in order to see it, you kind of want to make the actual border a little bit thicker. So let's run it. So change the border to 10 pixels and then run it. So then you can see that it's kind of like a ridge, like a window type of border. So that's what you can do with styles. There's also a dotted style border. So that's going to be dotted. There's also a dashed. Okay. And I believe if you just leave it like this and let it hover, you can, Replit kind of shows you all the ones that you can take. And yeah, these are a few, but we're going to leave it as solid. Okay. And I'm going to paste back that line right here. And it's going to give you, it's going to underline it, and it's going to say that you shouldn't use duplicate style definitions because they all mean the same thing. So you can comment out this first one here, just so it doesn't give you that little line. So comment it out by using a / and an asterisk, and then an asterisk and / at the end. Okay. Right. Now, let's say you want to give an accent on, did I leave it as solid? Run it again. Okay, there we go, solid. And change the border back to 1 pixel. Okay. So now let's say we want to only target certain positions of the border. The way we can do that is by, let's say we want to target on the right side of the border. We can do border right, and then we can change the actual color of, well, first of all, we can change the actual size of the border. So let's say we want it a little bit thicker. So let's do 5 pixels. Border color, sorry, border right color. Right? So that's how you have to target it. So it's like border, the right side of the border, and then the color. So let's say we want it to be coral. And this is not going to show up unless you specify the style of the border. So I keep doing this. It's border right and then style because you want to target it like that. And let's do solid. Okay, now let me see if it actually runs with this. Okay, so now you see that it actually runs. So now there's like a little accent on the right side of the border here. Okay, let me know when you guys have that.
I have it.
Okay. All right, so we're going to go ahead and do margin now. So I'm going to show you a little thing here. So margin is the space around each element. So if you take a look at the actual box, there is no space between the header and the box, or between the header and this link right here. So you kind of want to make some space. So the way you do that is the same thing. We're going to target the box, and then we're going to use margin. We're going to use a one-liner again. So we can just set margin equal to 10 pixels. Let's do 20 pixels, actually. 20 pixels, and that sets both all of the size equal to 20 pixels. So now you could actually see on the top, there's more space. On the left, there's more space. On the right and on the bottom, there's more space. So now there's space between the actual box and the link, and there's space between the actual box and the header. You can even make it a little bit more bigger. You can do 50 pixels or whatever you want. So now you can see that there's an increasingly amount of more space here, but we're going to leave it at 20 pixels. Now you can target this differently as well. Actually, I'm going to show you something which is a little cool. If you open this in a new tab and you click Control-Shift-I, or if you just go to the double thing and you do more tools and developer tools, if you click on that or Control-Shift-I, let me know when you guys get there. So we don't want to go ahead without you. So Control-Shift-I. I don't know if you have a Mac. I don't know how it is. Maybe Command-Shift-I. And if you don't want to use the actual commands, I think you can, there's like the options and you can go to more tools, and then it should be here, developer tools.
I think I got it.
Okay.
Yeah, I got it.
All right.
Yeah,
So once you're here, this is why I really love developer tools, because it actually shows you, like if you're a visual learner, it's so much easier to actually understand what margin padding and border actually means for the element. So if you go and take a look here, it actually shows your HTML code. So you want to find your body. So this is your body tag right here. And you want to find your, what is it called? The container class. So it actually even highlights the actual container, so you can actually see it, which is super cool. You want to click on the container class, and then you want to find that box, right, that you wrote. So here's the actual box. Let me know when you guys find the box. So it should be highlighting the box for you. And it's for some reason it's going to say some cursor in the box, but just ignore that. Just find the div class equals box. It should be under your body first of all. Then you go to heading 1, div class container. You don't click on that. You click on this, so you have to like unhide it, and then you find the actual box. Are you guys having trouble?
I got it. Oh, I got it.
Okay.
Yeah, I
So
got it.
now that you have the actual box, if you scroll a little bit, I don't know how you guys have it to the side or maybe to the bottom, but there should be something called styles, and it should already be popped up. But if you scroll all the way to the bottom, you're going to see this like little box here. Now, what's super cool about this box is that it actually shows you the effect your settings has on the actual box. So if you kind of hover over it, it actually shows you the content, which is the paragraph itself. Then it shows you the padding that you applied, but we haven't gotten there yet. It shows you the border, and it actually shows you the size of your border, so 1 pixel. So remember, we actually had 1 pixel here for each side except the right side. So it even shows you the sizing for the right side, which is 5 pixels, which makes sense because the right side is thicker than the other sides. And then finally, it shows you your margin, so the space between the space surrounding that element, the box, right, the division. So it shows you that there's a 20 pixel margin on all sides. So whenever you're confused or whenever you're like, you're trying to change a certain thing, let's say you only had this box and you wanted to say, okay, well, how do I change like a certain thing? Well, then you can just go here and kind of figure it out. You could say, oh, if I want to change the padding. So padding is kind of the space here, the space surrounding the actual content, which we're going to get to in a second. So if you say, oh, I want to change the padding, well then you can say, oh, well then the padding is the space or surrounding this content. So I have to like target the padding and then change it this way. So it's like, it's a more visual approach to what you're doing. So that's what it shows you. We're going to come back to this after we actually do the padding. Okay, so let's go back to our replit. Okay, now when we actually go into padding, it's the same thing. We're going to do box 1. And notice how there is no space between the actual content and the box. It's very linear here. It's very like close to the left side. So we want to target the left side only in this case. So we're going to do padding left. And then we're going to set it equal to, I don't know, let's say 5 pixels. So a very small amount of space, but it's good enough. If we run that, now we can see a little bit more space. Just so, but for learning purposes, let me actually do 15 so you could see the actual change. So now you can see that there's more space in between, right? So if you actually open this in a new tab once again, and you click Control-Shift-I, it should bring you to Developer Tools. And if you go all the way back in the bottom, and you find your box 1, it should tell you now that there's an actual, oops, 1 second. It should show you now the actual padding. So you added a 15 pixel padding to the left, so it even highlights it for you on the web browser. So it says 15 here, and it also says it on the left. Okay, and then it actually tells you the content, the padding, then you see the border again, and then the margin. So that's like a visual representation of what you're doing in your CSS code. Okay, now we're going to practice what we used here for margin, padding, and border in lists, links, forms, and buttons and images. We only have 5 minutes left, so we're going to have to finish this tomorrow. But first, let me actually go to buttons here and see if we can actually get something done. Let me do something quickly. Okay, so we're going to skip links and go to buttons. So for buttons, let's say we want every button on the page to have the same style. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to index.html. We're going to scroll down to where we see buttons, which is section 8. And we're going to give every button a class of button. So we could, the reason we're not targeting the element, you might be asking, oh, well, can we just target the element? Well, we can, but we're going to give it a class called button because we're actually going to use this style on a link. And I'm going to show you how to do that in a second. So make sure you run that. So when we go back to buttons, we can do dot button because it's a class, so we're targeting it using a dot. Then we're going to do a background color, which is a property, right? Background color, we're going to set it equal to coral. We want the color of the text to be black. So let me run that and see how that goes again. So now you can see that the actual buttons, the background color is coral, and the color of the text is black, okay? Now, we want the same, so let's say we want to have the same thing apply to this button right here. Go back to index.html and go to your link, section 5, and actually move it inside the box1 class. So now that if you run it, this link here is going to be inside box1. So let me know when you guys have that. So make sure you move section 5 into your box1 division class. Do you guys have that?
Yeah.
Okay. So once you do that, you want to go back to style.css. And this is the reason why we're not using an element, because we actually want to apply the same style to this link right here. So we're going to go back to section 5 in CSS, and we're going to target the box 1, and then we're going to target the actual link. Actually, hold on. We don't actually even have to do that. Let's go back to HTML, excuse me. And instead of changing it from CSS and giving it its own style, but the same thing, we could just apply the class of buttons here, of button. And what that's going to do, it's going to give the same style that a button has to this link right here. So if we run it, now it says click here, and you can kind of see like, oh, well, this is a little article, and then like click here for more information. So if you click here, it's going to be a link, right? So that's why we're using a class. That's the purpose of using classes instead of elements in this case, because we wanted to apply this style here to a link, right? And a link is an A tag. It's not a button tag. So it wouldn't have worked. So we would have to actually rewrite the declaration. But instead, we just we said, hey, I want you to have the same style as a button. So I'm going to give you a class equals button. Does that make sense? Any questions? Do you guys want me to go back to HTML or CSS? Are you missing anything? Okay, so if we're not missing anything, tomorrow we're going to practice what we learned on lists, forms, and then images, and then we're going to finally do a few things with JavaScript, and then we're going to start our project our project template, for lack of better words. We're going to go over the project that we're going to work on next week, and then that's the plan so far. So if you don't have any questions, you guys are free to go. I'm going to post the recording session after this, and yes, and also the template for JavaScript, okay?
Thank you. Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
All right,
Okay.
bye.
Thank you.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.